Have you ever just, looked at a flower and really thought about how it works? I mean, how does it create the next generation? Plants are rooted to the spot. They can't just get up and find a mate. So how do they pull off this incredible biological feat? Well, the answer is a secret, and it's hidden deep inside the flower itself. It actually involves two amazing, totally microscopic journeys. It's a huge puzzle when you think about it. If you can't move, how do you make sure your species continues? The answer isn't just one single event. It's this beautifully engineered story that unfolds on a scale so small you can't even see it. So we're going to follow these two stories as they happen at the exact same time. We've got the journey of the male reproductive cell and the journey of the female reproductive cell. Both start deep inside the flower, and both are absolutely critical for making that next generation happen. All right, let's dive into our first story, the male journey. This all begins inside the anther of the flower. This is the factory, the place where the plant creates its famous little traveler, the pollen grain. And it all kicks off with something called a microspore. Okay, let's walk through these steps. It all starts with just one parent cell, the microspore mother cell. Now, in step 2, it does something really special, a type of division called meiosis. The most important thing to remember about meiosis is that it halves the chromosome number. So one cell becomes a little cluster of 4 new cells, called a tetrad. And from there, as you see in step 4, every single one of those 4 microspores gets to grow up and become its own pollen grain. Pretty efficient, right? So what makes these tiny pollen grains such epic travelers? Well, a huge part of it is their armor. The outer layer is made of a substance called sporopollenin. And let me tell you, this stuff is unbelievably tough. It's one of the most durable organic materials known to science. It can handle high temperatures, strong acids, you name it. It's the whole reason we can find fossilized pollen that's millions of years old. Wow. And inside that super tough shell, you've got some incredible teamwork going on. A mature pollen grain isn't just one thing, it's a 2-cell team. You've got the larger guide cell. Its whole job is to build the pathway, the pollen tube, to get to the destination. And then you have the smaller passenger cell. This is the precious cargo. This is the cell that's going to divide and create the 2 male gametes that are needed for fertilization.
Okay, now remember, while all of that is happening with the pollen, an equally amazing journey is taking place deep within the flower's ovule. This is the other side of the story, the female gamete getting the embryo sac ready. This process starts out pretty similar, with a single parent cell undergoing meiosis to make 4 new cells. But here is the massive twist. Unlike the male journey, where all 4 cells made it, here 3 of the megaspores basically sacrifice themselves. They just wither away, pushing all of their nutrients and resources into the one remaining cell, the single functional megaspore. So what happens to this lone survivor? Well, it undergoes exactly 3 rounds of cell division. But, and this is the really wild part, while the nucleus inside divides 3 times, the cell itself never actually splits. The nuclei keep dividing, but they all stay inside one single growing cell. And this leads to one of the coolest and most famous facts in all of botany. The end result is a mature embryo sac that has 7 cells, but somehow contains a total of 8 nuclei. I know, it sounds like a paradox, right? How is that even possible? It's a biological marvel that happens because of that very specific way it divides. So, how does this whole 7-cell, 8 nuclei thing actually work? Let's break it down. At one end of the sac, you've got the main event, the egg apparatus. That's the super important egg cell with 2 little helper cells next to it. At the total opposite end, you've got 3 other cells, called antipotals. And then, right smack in the middle, you have that one giant central cell we were talking about, and inside it are those 2 polar nuclei. And there you have it, 7 cells, 8 nuclei. Okay, so we've seen these 2 incredible journeys play out. But they aren't just random, messy processes. They actually represent 2 brilliant and completely different evolutionary strategies for making sure the species survives. When you look at the male side, the strategy is all about quantity. A plant just churns out millions, sometimes billions, of pollen grains. It's a total numbers game. Yeah, most will get lost, but the sheer volume guarantees a few will hit their target. But on the female side, it's the complete opposite. It's all about quality. By sacrificing 3 of the 4 cells, the plant pours every single resource into making one big, strong, and super viable egg cell. This gives it the absolute best shot at developing successfully after fertilization. And that quantity strategy?
it also involves a serious race against time. As you can see from this chart, how long pollen can actually do its job varies wildly. Just look at cereals like rice and wheat. Their pollen is only good for about 30 minutes. But then you look at plants in the rose family, and their pollen can last for several months. It's another layer of strategy, perfectly tailored to what that specific plant needs. So look, understanding these tiny microscopic journeys isn't just some fascinating biology lesson. It actually has huge direct applications in our world, especially when it comes to feeding everybody on the planet. So how do we deal with that ticking clock for really important pollen? Well, the answer is technology. It's called cryopreservation. Basically, we can store pollen in liquid nitrogen at a mind-bogglingly cold -196 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, everything just stops. We can essentially hit the pause button, keeping that pollen viable for years, even decades. And this is why it's such a game changer. By storing pollen, we create what are basically pollen banks. These banks are absolutely critical for modern agriculture. They let plant breeders cross plants that flower at different times of the year, or even live on opposite sides of the world. This is exactly how we create better crop varieties, develop advanced hybrid seeds, and maybe most importantly, save the genetic diversity of plants for the future. So really, the next time you see a flower, remember all of the incredible, perfectly timed events happening inside. It's a story of two journeys, one all about quantity, the other all about quality, and both of them coming together to create the seeds that sustained so much of life on this planet. It's a hidden, microscopic world of strategy, sacrifice, and ultimately, survival.